It's the middle of the week, and my week has not really gone according to plan. Hi everybody, today is February 20th. It is day 20 of Plan As You Go, and I'm showing you how I use my Erin Condren horizontal, my bullet journal, and my power sheets together in tandem for an entire month. So remember yesterday how I said that my kids were going back to their dad's house and I would be able to get some work done in the afternoon? That didn't happen. Apparently their dad took longer to get back from Southern California than he expected. I had to go get the kids, RJ after school and Katie after rehearsal yesterday evening. Kinda threw things into a monkey wrench. I also got really exhausted in the middle of the day and wound up falling asleep while I was reading a book. That was interesting. But I still got a lot of what I wanted done yesterday. It just sort of, reminds you that no matter how much you think a day is gonna go a certain way, it can change. And it can change pretty quickly, and you just gotta be prepared for that. So I was able to get a little bit more work done on these things, on my email work and on my numbers, and I did walk. We did not do family planning stuff last night, mainly because even though my kids, I'm gonna set this to the side, even though my kids were there, which was what I was like, would have been a way to do that, my husband still had to work late. So we actually wound up not even having dinner until 8 o'clock last night. It was just kind of all over the place. All right, I did not come back in here to check anything off, but I did all the things on here. I did not finish answering emails, but at the very least I cleared out spam emails and kind of prioritized the ones I want to get to. Now there's something on here that I did not add when I scheduled the week. Katie has a doctor's appointment this afternoon, which I need to bring them to. But then their dad will be picking them up from rehearsal. I do need to film today. I need to buy tickets for the musical. We figured out we're gonna go see it, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. So we got that figured out. I'm trying to think what else I needed to get done today. There's that webinar tonight that I'm gonna be looking at. I need to continue email work if possible, and I need to get some stuff done for Kristen and finished up. I didn't really need the exclamation point, but I kind of misjudged where I should put that word, and so it kind of balanced it out. And that is my planner for the day. I don't think I have anything else I need to add to this. As usual, I've got some questions from you guys for the day. The first one I'm gonna go to is from Amy, and she asked, as someone who makes their livelihood on the internet, what do you see as the benefits or perks of having friends online, and what are the drawbacks, if any? This is not my first rodeo with making friends on the internet, and I'm sure for a lot of us that's not the case. When I was 18, so it was back in the late 90s, when the internet still was kind of in its earlier stages. Another kind of bad night, but I didn't take a painkiller. I was really involved in the official Buffy the Vampire Slayer posting board forums, and I went to a bunch of the parties. There were official parties and then unofficial ones in like Vegas, and I went to those. I did a lot of traveling right about then. I've made like mom friends. When I first had my first kid, I was really isolated, and I made some friends through mom forums that I met in the area. I've met people through role-playing, #nerdy. It was a Wheel of Time, which is a book series. There was a role-playing website and everything. I met people through that. I went and traveled and met them in Austin and in New Orleans. So I've traveled and met friends from the internet for probably 20 years now. And the friends I've made in the planner community, maybe because I'm an adult now, and aside from the fact that I'm a creator and I make money doing this and everything else, aside from all of that, I feel like because at this point I am really sure of who I am, and when I was younger and meeting people, I wasn't sure of who I was, I feel really comfortable with the friends that I've made online in the planner community. I can't imagine my life without them. From people like Kristen, just absolutely adore talking to, and I consider one of my really good friends. Like, that relationship is amazing, and it is almost entirely online because we only get to see each other a couple times a year. To the friends I've made here in my area, my Planners Who Lunch friends, who we get together as often as we can to have lunch and hang out with each other and just talk. There's friends I've made all over the world through this. I've met some of them in person, some of them I haven't. My life is better for them. I'm gonna take a second here and look and see if I can cross anything off. Yes, I can cross this off. Woohoo! So my doodle for the day is sushi. So when it comes to making friends online on the internet, I think it is really valuable to be able to find people who share the same interests you do. It's not always easy to find people who identify with you in your area. Like, there may be only so many people in your area who have the same hobby you do, but if you go online, you're able to find people who enjoy the same things you do, and you can become friends with them purely for that, as opposed to in real life, where a lot of the friends I've made as an adult have been friends through work or friends through parents of my kids' friends. When I'm friends with my kids' friends' parents, the basis of our relationship is our kids. When I'm friends with people through work, the basis of our friendship is through work. Often with your friends through work, you'll often be talking about work when you're hanging out with them, because that's the shared experience. With friends you make online, the shared experience you have is a community that you got to because of whatever you were interested in, whether that's planners, whether that's a TV show, whether that's crafting of some other sort like knitting, whether that's, sci-fi or something. Like, you meet people who share an interest with you, and so the friendship is based on something you both like as yourselves. So that is the strongest benefit, is being able to make friends, especially if you're introverted and you don't like going out and meeting new people. It's a great way to make friends. The caveat is, if all you do is spend time talking to your friends on the internet and you don't ever get out of your house, not even to hang out with friends, but like to go and be among people in person, you can get really like tunnel vision-y and really like in your own head, because you're interacting with a computer or with a phone. I've been there. And so you just have to try and balance that with getting out of the house, with trying to establish or just nurture the relationships you have with people in person to maintain that sort of a connection, while also doing your best to see if you can meet some of the people you've met online in person and build those in-person relationships. Because I will tell you, for all of the friends that I've made online, there's nothing as amazing as getting to see them in person and hang out with them in person and realize that like this person who you adore from being online is even better in person. Because that always happens regardless of the person. Getting to hang out with people in person, for me, always better. There's my sushi. Let's go to the lettering for the day. Sexy MF. There's another question that sort of is related to this in kind of a tangential way from my Chronicles with Chronic Pain. She asked, as someone whose job is in the planner community, but you are also dealing with chronic illness, how do you decide which events to involve yourself in, rather be as a speaker or as an attendee? I had mentioned in that comment that I've been actually thinking about this as I've been kind of watching the festivities from afar of the Chicago Planner Conference, thinking about that. A couple years ago, I was traveling probably every month, every other month. And this year I'm still traveling some, but I'm not traveling a ton. And part of that is by design. I actually have tried to avoid committing to a lot of things. I have discovered as time has gone on that I take longer and longer to recover from an event, just in terms of the time it takes for me to like rest when I get home. So it's harder and harder on my body to go to events in person. That doesn't mean I don't go to events in person. That doesn't mean I don't want to. It just means that I have to be realistic with what I can handle. That is all she wrote from this. I will be honest, I am very likely not going to travel out of my area, meaning Northern California. I'm willing to drive I've driven like a couple hours to a Northern California event, and that's fine with me. I'm willing to travel in my area for an event, but if I have to fly somewhere or travel for more than like 4 hours to an event, I'm probably only going to be doing that if I'm speaking at that event. And it's not because I don't think other events aren't good enough or whatever. I totally think that they are. It is so difficult for me to recover from an event that if I'm going, I need to have like responsibility around the event to be able to commit to it. So it's not just the weekend of the event, it's also like the week after the event where I'm fairly useless, because that takes such a toll on me. I need to prioritize going to events based on if they are asking me to be there, as opposed to picking some that sound fun and going to those. If I felt better, I would go to way more events than I do, but I don't. I love going to events. I love seeing people. I love meeting people. Shit, I flew to New York for 2 days to go to an event. Now, if I wasn't a speaker, if I wasn't somebody who would have a reasonable expectation of being asked to go to an event in the first place, if I was somebody who just wanted to hang out with planner people, I would probably look at the events that are happening, think about both the cost of the event, the cost it would be to attend the event, whether it's a plane ticket, hotel, whatever, the people that are going to the event, like people that I want to spend time with, weigh all of those to see whether the pros of going to the event would be worth the cost, both monetarily and physically, of going to an event. So as an example, for me, even if I wasn't speaking, it would be a no-brainer to really consider some of the West Coast Planners events because A, I'm on the West Coast, so the travel is nowhere near as onerous as going to, say, Winter Plannerland, which is on the other coast for me. B, because I've been to several of their events and there's a lot of the same attendees, I know that if I go to that event, I'm guaranteed to see a lot of my friends that tend to go to those events. Now, that doesn't mean that there's also friends of mine who go to other events. I know that there is going to be certain people at those events because they're always at those events, and that is something that is exciting for me. The cost monetarily is a lot less of a pain because it's on like my home turf, on my coast. Physically, it wouldn't be as bad because the event might take it out of me, but the travel won't add to that. If I'm traveling across the country or somewhere else, the travel will add a lot more pain in the ass to it and make it a lot harder to, more of a struggle for me, if that makes sense. If you have chronic illness and you're trying to decide, do you want to go to an event? Do you want to go to several events? I would look at the events that happen in a year, where they're at, who you can reasonably expect to be going to that, whether it's an event that you're interested in, and how much it will cost you both financially and physically in terms of the travel, in terms of the length of the event, all of those things. And then kind of pick and choose which ones you want. Those are my opinions. I hope that that didn't come off sounding like I'm super smug, because I'm really not. So here's yesterday's list. I got a lot of it done. There's a couple of things I did not do though, but for the most part I got it done. So I'm gonna start a new spread for bullet journaling, and then there's 2 more questions I have to ask. One of them is kind of simple, one of them is a lot more complicated. I'm gonna use these black hearts that I had from my Erin Condren. The not so complicated one is from Amanda, and she asked, how do I organize my stickers? So I'm not gonna show it right now because I will do a video on how I'm currently organizing them, which will actually be more of a hot mess video because they're not organized, but I can just tell you right now kind of the system that is working for me with some of my stickers. So my Once More with Love stickers and any other of the companies that do like little sheets like this, like the little quarter sheets, I store those in, why is this not cutting? What the fuck? All of those I store in those 4x6 photo albums, the little cheapy ones. I got it for a couple bucks. These guys, the little just like cheapy photo albums that you slip your little pictures into. I got them from the drugstore and they work really well for that. My Krissyanne Designs stickers are all stored in binders. They're not stored well in binders. A lot of them are just kind of shoved in there, which is part of what I need to clean up and get them organized. And then the rest of my stickers are kind of in a mishmash all over my house. Well, my office at least. All of my books, like my Happy Planner sticker books, my Krissyanne Designs at Michael's sticker books, those are all kind of in a pile on my shelf. Like Erin Condren stickers, other kits that I've picked up, like Cricut Paper Co. and whatever, are sort of in another pile on my desk. Got a lot of piles. I store in piles. I am not advocating this. My storage system sucks ass. So I may wind up doing a video maybe next month where I show you, if you're interested, let me know. If I show you kind of where it's at and then maybe the process of organizing them. I originally wanted to do that live, but I figured it would be like a 9-hour long live stream, and I'm not a Twitch streamer. That's how I organize them, which is not very. And then the last question, which is the one I want to kind of, ponder upon as I'm setting up my bullet journal for the day, is from Grin and Plan. They said, do you ever find yourself planning more than doing? I have found myself in this trap where I like the look of a full planner, so I add the pretty, and I rewrite the things that I know I'm going to do, have already done. Maybe I don't have as much going on as the mom of anyone, and our plans are pretty fly by the seat of our pants, but I do sometimes feel that I'm just writing things down just to write things down. It does help with some work things I don't want to forget, doctor's appointments, but those are few days throughout the year. It does help me get things out of my head. Is anything on your mind important enough to write down, or just the things you don't want to forget? Are these one and the same? Yes, being busy does not equal productive, but when you need a planner but don't have plans, typical plans like timed things, how to stop feeling like you're kind of forcing it? No, I don't share on Instagram or anything, but that may be an influence. Just wondering if anyone has the same thoughts. Well, my sweet summer child, I have had those thoughts. So you are not alone. I'm going to preface this by saying that nobody's shit is the same. Everybody has a different life, whether they have kids, whether they don't have kids, whether they work at like a company, a 9-to-5 office job, or they work in retail where their hours are different, or they work for themselves, or they don't work at all for whatever reason, or they're a student, or whatever the case may be, whether they're married or they're not, whether they're 18 or 55, like Everybody's life is different, which means that the way everybody plans their life is gonna look different. If making the thing pretty and filling it up with stuff, even if you don't have a lot going on, makes you happy, that is fucking functional enough. There's no judgment, there is no bar for how much planning constitutes actual planning. There is no bar for how much stuff you have to have going on in your life for you to be considered productive, or for you to be considered efficient, or for you to be considered whatever. Like, there are people on the internet who will talk so much shit when they see pictures of people's planners and that person has written down, brush your teeth and do your lawn or whatever. And people are like, oh, why? They must not have anything else going on in their life because they had to write down brush their teeth. Yeah, or maybe writing down brush their teeth helps them to remember it because it's something that slips their mind. Like, stop fucking judging people. And I'm not saying this to you, Grin and Plan. I'm saying this in general, to not judge people for what's in their planners, because you don't live their goddamn life. And so you really don't get a say in how they live their goddamn life. It bothers me. It's one of my pet peeves, is that when people look at someone's planner and assume that maybe because their planner doesn't look full of enough stuff, that somehow there's something wrong with them, when maybe that's just the way that their life looks like right now, you know? It takes a lot of balls to share your shit on the internet and open yourself up to criticism. And it takes a lot of fucking balls to say to somebody that you think that their life doesn't look great. It takes a lot of nerve, and it pisses me off. But that's a bit of a tangent. I gotta also remember to write my list while I'm doing this. I don't think there should be any arbitrary like limits to how much stuff constitutes the need for a planner. If you feel like you need it for whatever reason, then you need it, and that's all that matters. But I will say that deciding what to write down and why to do it, and this whole planning more than doing, that's also a trap you can go deep into. If you find yourself putting all these things down on paper and never actually doing any of them, that you have the illusion of being productive because you wrote everything down, but then you don't actually go and do the things you say you need to do, that's also a problem, and you might be utilizing the whole system of planning as a procrastination tool to keep you from doing the things that you feel like you should be doing or that you're supposed to be doing. I don't think there's any requirement for what is worthy enough. If you have nothing going on in a day and you want to write down, take a shower and brush your teeth in your planner so you can check them off, by all means, fucking do it if it makes you happy. But make sure that when you're using your planner, even if you're using it to decorate it as part of the hobby, that you don't use it as a crutch to avoid your life. If you're doing that, then maybe the best thing to do would be to set the hobby aside and grab a notepad and use that as a to-do list until you can actually start getting things done, and then you can go back to the hobby. You need to have a healthy balance between hobby and actually doing the things in your life. I'm not preaching this from a place of, oh, don't ever do this. I'm preaching this from a place of, I have done this, and I still do it from time to time, and I need to remember that. But I want to razor in on your comment of, is anything on your mind important enough to write down, or just the things you don't want to forget? I'm of the opinion that everything on your mind is important enough to write down, because you never know what the thing you're going to forget is, and you never know if that thing that's on your mind that you don't think is that important will become important later. There have been small details that I have totally missed because they came my way. I didn't write them down, and then I forgot about them, and then the thing came up and I realized that was more important than I thought it was. So I'm of the opinion, write all the things down. Write it all down. Once you write it down, you can decide where it belongs. Remember what I said yesterday about the Post-it notes, moving them around? Just think about it that way. Just get everything out of your head into your planner, regardless of how mundane it feels, because then you'll be able to really get a good look at your life, be able to figure out how you want to structure things. And then as time goes on, you may decide that's not necessary anymore to write it down because it's just in your head and it's a habit. But you can make that call a lot easier once you've confronted what it is. I feel like Tony Robbins in a really weird way. So that's kind of my thought process. But ultimately what this goes down to is, don't overthink whether or not you're using your planner correctly. Just think, is it helping me get shit done? Or am I getting lost in the process of it and I'm not actually getting shit done? Anyway, I'm gonna finish putting my to-do list together after all of that rambling. All right, so here's my to-do list for the day. It's mostly the filming I wanted to get done, the driving around I have to do. I have a webinar tonight, some work to do today, buying those tickets, and then a couple of pieces of housework, a little bit more laundry because it's never fucking ending in this house, and dishes. Oh, I forgot we have a plumber coming over today at 4. Don't want to forget that. So if you have any thoughts on Grin and Plan's question about planning more than doing, about what is worth putting in your planner and what is not, and if you're in that place at all, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. It was a really thought-provoking question, and I kind of ranted about maybe some things that kind of bug me about the whole idea of what is worthy of planning and not, which has nothing to do with the person asking the question and everything to do with shit I've seen people say online. I would like to hear your thoughts on how to feel like you're forcing planning. Like, do you feel like you're forcing it? Do you feel like you are planning for the sake of planning rather than planning for the sake of doing, and how you got past that if you had those thoughts? I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video.